There we go. Item 1.6, this is a selection of a representative of the Committee on School District Organizations. In the past, it has been the policy for the president to be on this committee. But if anyone is interested in serving in this capacity, please let me know. But for this meeting, I would like to entertain a motion to approve the selection of a representative to the Committee on the School District Organization, which will be the president of the board.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Otto,
Second.
second by Trustee Zia. Comments, questions on this item? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, if you could please call the roll.
President Kellogg,
Aye.
Member Otto,
Excuse me.
Vice President Otto, Member Baxter,
Aye.
Member Zia.
Aye.
Motion 1.6 carries without objection. Next item, 1.7. This is the board president's appointment of an additional board member to the audit subcommittee. The audit subcommittee has representation from the board that includes the president, and I've asked Trustee Otto, who has done this in the past. This is to review the audit before it comes to the entire board for review. So the recommendation on item 1.7, and I'll entertain a motion. Do we need a vote, Madam Secretary, because it is an appointment? No appointment needed. So for the record, Trustee Otto will be the additional board member to the audit subcommittee.
President Kellogg, may I ask? It says
Sure.
additional. Are you on the audit
Yes,
subcommittee also?
the board president also serves on that.
Thank you.
Other comments, questions, members of the board? Then we'll move forward. 1.8, this is the revised board meeting calendar for August 2014. It's an action item, so I'll entertain a motion to approve first, and then if there's any discussion.
Move the calendar.
Motion for Trustee Otto,
Second.
second by Trustee Baxter, to have the revised board meeting calendar for August 2014. This was really more because we had to move some dates around. Are there any questions,
Yeah.
comments, members of the board? Karen, are you waving to me or just, okay. All right, how you doing? All right, very good. If there's no question, comments, members of the board, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on item 1.8.
I'd just like to clarify, it's to add the board retreat
Thank you,
during the day,
thank you.
along with the night meeting. Okay. President Kellogg, Vice President Otto,
Aye.
Member Baxter,
Aye.
Member Zia.
Aye. If I could just add one comment, President Kellogg, since I work, if it's possible the next time around, if we can have it on a weekend, a retreat, that would be fantastic.
All right. And we will be talking to members about as we develop the agenda for the retreat, which is really important because with 2 new members. And so we're looking forward to that being a very productive retreat for everyone. And so noted also your concern. We'll take that into account. That motion carries. The consent calendar. Consent calendar items. Is there any items from members of the board they wish to pull at this time for further discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the entire consent calendar.
I have a.
Chair recognizes Trustee Zia. Which item would you like to have pulled?
5.2. I just have a few questions.
Let's approve the consent calendar, then I'll recognize item 5.2.
Move approval of the remainder of the consent calendar.
There's a motion on the floor to approve the consent calendar with the exception of item 5.2 for further discussion. Other comments, questions at this time of other items? If not, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on the approval of the consent calendar.
Do I have a second?
I'm sorry.
Second.
Thank you. Second by Trustee Baxter.
President Kellogg,
Aye.
Vice President Otto,
Aye.
Member Baxter,
Aye.
Member Zia.
Aye.
The consent calendar is approved. Item 5.2, classified personnel. The chair recognizes Trustee Zia.
Yes, I'd like to understand page 10 of 10, the reason for the layoffs of the 3 individuals that are listed.
Trustee Zia, these items were brought before the board in closed session at the previous meeting. These individuals work in the area of college advancement and economic development. They are grant-funded positions, and the programs that are funded through these grant funds are either funds are being reduced or they are making changes to the grant program. I'd let Executive Vice President Bynum add anything to that since these are all in her area.
Yes, these positions were created a few years ago under classifications that were for grants at that time in particular. One of them in particular was the series of nursing grants. Those grants have run out of funds, and so that position is no longer needed. The other one is workforce development in general. We have a number of positions now that are specific and have professional expertise tied to those grants, and so there isn't a use of that position anymore in terms of the workforce development position. So just for a point of clarification, we have funds come and go quite often and frequently with grants, and oftentimes those grants can go on for a couple or 3 or 4 years. Our goal is to try to sustain them and build capacity in the area, but sometimes that just simply doesn't work, or we change our programming focus with the instructional programs that we're working with.
Great, thank you.
Other questions, comments on item 5.2? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the item.
So moved.
Motion by trustee Otto,
Second.
second by trustee Baxter. Other comments, questions? Hearing none. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on item 5.2.
President Kellogg,
Aye.
Vice President Otto,
Aye.
Member Baxter,
Aye.
Member Zia.
Aye.
Item 5.2 carries without objection. That is the end of the consent calendar. We now move to Human Resources, item 5.3. This is the approval of district CHI-LBCC Memorandum of Understanding. It is going to require a motion, so I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by trustee Zia, second by trustee Baxter. Question, comments, members of the board at this time on this item? I would like to personally thank the management team and in particular Karen Roberts and her leadership team for getting this agreement done. We appreciated hard work, and my understanding is it passed overwhelming and a great voter turnout as well by our adjunct faculty members.
Yeah, and I would second that and say that my understanding is that despite the fact that it was after the end of the term, that there was still a great turnout to vote about 5-1 for approval of this, and it's always nice to have labor peace.
President Kellogg?
Yes,
if I
Chair
could just-
recognizes trustee Baxter.
Thank you. If I could just say I was an hourly teacher for 5 years, and I know what the hourly teachers go through, and I appreciate them every day.
Members at this time?
As President Kellogg, I also like to echo the comments that have been made. Thank you so much, Karen. I know you work very hard and your team works very hard, so thank you for your leadership. And I look forward to supporting our part-time faculty further.
They do tremendous work for this college, all colleges, especially here, so thank you. There is a motion and a second on the floor to approve the MOU. Madam Secretary, and there's no other comments, members of the board at this time. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on item 5.3.
President Kellogg,
Aye.
Vice President Otto,
Aye.
Member Baxter,
Aye.
Member Zia.
Aye.
Item 5.3 carries without objection. Item 5.4, management team salary increase for 2015-16, 2016, and 17. This is an action item. I'll entertain a motion to approve. Prior to any
So moved.
discussion, motion by trustee Otto,
Second.
second by trustee Baxter. Are there question, comments on this item? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, please call your roll. Please call the
President-
roll.
President Kellogg,
Aye.
Vice President Otto,
Aye.
Member Baxter,
Aye.
Member Zia.
Aye.
Thank you. Item 5.4 carries without objection. We're now to the Academic Senate. No items, no reports, correct? And welcome to your first meeting, Karen. We're happy to have you here. Again, I remember when you were here before, but in a different capacity.
President Kellogg, Karen was my student.
I hate to say it, but I don't know if I was or I wasn't a student because I was a history major.
Well,
but-
yeah, he claims he wasn't a student, so I don't,
Does that make her Beverly's granddaughter?
yeah. Just about.
But welcome to your first meeting. I appreciate everything you do for the college as well. Superintendent President, No item, no report?
No action items at this point.
Thank you. Student Support Services, 11.1. This is delete district
Academic
policy.
affairs, Academic affairs.
I'm sorry, did I miss academic affairs? Academic affairs, no item, no report. Moving on to Student Support Services, 11.1. This is deleting a district policy 5002, associated student body enterprises. Do we need anyone for just a brief explanation of what this item is? Superintendent President Oakley?
I'd be happy to allow either Dr. Peterson or I know Vice President Gable has a background as well. So I turn it over to you, just a quick summary of the reason for District Policy 5002.
This is just cleaning up the policies. We used to have ASB enterprises. We no longer have that. We have the new auxiliary structure, and so this is cleaning up to reflect that change.
Thank you. Questions, comments, members of the board at this time? On this
Yes, I
item?
have a question.
Sure, right ahead,
President
Trustee Zia.
Kellogg. If you can just explain the difference and why we're going with an auxiliary fund, I'd appreciate it. Whoever's.
Well, the auxiliary fund was established several years ago by the Board of Trustees. In order to have funds flow through the district, an auxiliary fund has to be established. So in the case of the Associated Student Body, there has been an auxiliary fund in existence. The difference is, and I don't remember, I think Vice President Gable can help me remember what year we changed the structure. And by the way, this is just now cleaning up the board policy from the changes we made about 5 years ago to reflect what's actually happening now. But an auxiliary board was created to manage the funds that are generated by the student enterprises, such as the bookstore activity. And so that is made up of a board that includes student representation, and they decide how those funds are going to be dispersed. They decide to hire food service as well as bookstore, and so they manage the enterprises that serve the students.
And what year did this change happen?
It was in the 2007, 2008 fiscal year, I believe.
That's about right.
So it was a matter of just codifying it, and it wasn't codified at that time, and we're now doing that?
We're not codifying it, but we are cleaning up language and policy. The policy still had the term Associated Student Body Enterprise in it, and that had to be cleaned up to reflect the current name, which is the Associate, it was the Associated Student Body Enterprise, and that was replaced by the Long Beach City College Auxiliary, Inc. So that cleanup language hadn't been made at the time that the auxiliary was created.
Yeah, and it's probably worth noting that for the last couple of years, we've been trying to clean up our policies and regulations. Policies require action items. Regulations are just, don't require action at all, but these were just outdated. The policy had changed a long time ago. They were sort of vestigial, if you will, and they needed to be eliminated because the enterprise didn't exist anymore.
Okay, great, thank you.
Other questions, comments, members of the board? Hearing none. Madam Secretary? I'm sorry?
I didn't hear the motion.
I'm sorry.
Who
I
made
thought-
the motion?
I think Doug did, and I think I seconded.
Who did?
Doug made the motion, I seconded.
Yes. Yeah, we have no discussion until there is a proper motion on the floor. So I know we did that. I just don't remember what I had for breakfast this morning, so.
I think Jeff just said, yes, I didn't.
Yeah, yes, I didn't. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on item
President Kell-
11.1.
President Kellogg.
Aye.
Vice President Otto.
Aye.
Member Baxter.
Aye.
And Member Zia.
Aye.
11.1 carries without objection. 11.2, this is the deletion of Administrative Regulation 5002, Associated Student by Enterprise. This is informational. No vote is required. Did anyone have any additional questions that I believe has already been addressed? If not, we'll move on to the next item, and that is Administrative Services. Item 12.13, this is a resolution determining to appoint a provisional board member and establishing the procedures for the appointment. What I would like to do, at least to get a motion on the floor so that we can have discussion, could I entertain a motion to approve this action in a second, and then we can have a discussion on it?
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Otto,
Second.
second by Trustee Baxter. A discussion on this item. I'll begin with and just very briefly go through something that none of us have ever dealt with as members of the board. I believe the only one that actually remembers the last time there was an appointment would be Trustee Baxter, that we actually have done this. Other districts, community college districts, have done it as well as K-12s. What we have in front of us right now is there's a few questions in this resolution. It is, and if people have discussion or differences of opinion on that, this would be the time to discuss it. As this resolution states, we will go to an appointment process by the members of the existing board to fill District 2's vacancy. There is a process in there, including an appointment of a committee to address the applications. There's also in here questions that people have. How this came about is working with the other districts to try and put something together that does address the questions that we may want people to answer and the process we have to go through. When Trustee Aranga made his official announcement that he would no longer be serving, the clock starts legally. And so we know we have to have a timeline, and I believe it's one of our first meetings, if not our first meeting, September 9th, where we will have a public meeting and interview the individuals in a public forum just like this. In this document, I put together a committee, the reasons for that, and I heard some people talk briefly about having a large amount of people involved, different segments and so on. The existing structure we have right now is really to address the applications only. Not to interview. The reason why the committee that we have right now is the committee, when I asked the question about if they could interview each candidate, they began to get a lot of issues into Brown Act violations, or potential Brown Act violations, and the questions and how it's structured. There are times where people don't even use a committee, but I thought it was important for us because we don't know how many applications we're going to get on this. But the end result is this board that you see here tonight will make the final decision at a public board meeting. That's how it will take place. But as we currently have, and the motion includes a committee to look at the applications and come back and I don't want to use the wrong word here, but they're going to then send the applications to this board with some comments as well. So that's the process that we put in place, looking at other colleges that have gone through this, and that's what we're looking to move forward on in this very tight time frame. That said, now I'll open it up to members of the board. If you have questions, comments about the motion.
Yes, I have
I recognize Trustee Zia.
I have quite a bit of questions on this item, so I ask for your patience. So I think this is rather unusual to have an ad hoc advisory committee, especially that one that would rank applicants as stated in the resolution. I contacted our staff and asked for documentation of other districts that have formed ad hoc committees, as you mentioned, President Kellogg. And in reviewing these documents provided by Ms. Gable, it was clear that all vacancies in the other districts were filled by the full participation and voting of all the trustees instead of an ad hoc committee format. And it's since it's clear that the suggested approach is typically not the way to go about filling a board vacancy, I would like to see us follow a typical process and not create a committee that is limited to a few individuals. In fact, I would expand receiving input from the community, all stakeholders, and community members from the district, as we are elected officials and the community decides if we should be here, sitting here. I think also, as we heard, it's important to have a member of the faculty and faculty union and classified union and anyone from the public, like I said, rather than having a ranking body outside of all the board members. I certainly commend our superintendent president for recommending to get input from the academic senate president and college foundation representative, but we should go beyond that and receive input from the faculty and classified unions and representatives from the community, from the area that are not affiliated with the college community. I know a few who are exemplary, Ms. Jessica Quintana, maybe Council Member Uranga can, support us and recommend some constituents. I really think we don't have an inclusive committee with this structure. It should be subject to the Brown Act. With all the board members, it smacks of somehow trying to control the appointment and not give every applicant the same level of opportunity and the playing field, and make his or her case for the appointment. Just gives the appearance that a subgroup will be influencing the decision of this board, and I will not support that. Further, I think we should have all meetings at a time that is convenient for the public, not before 5 p.m., held on or after 5 p.m. So I would like to make a motion to amend the resolution as follows. Have the third clause read as the following in the resolved clause. At the time of the adoption of the resolution not the third resolve clause, the ninth resolve clause be amended to upon closure of the application period, the superintendent president or designee shall forward to each applicant information as the time, date, and location and order of interviews for the provisional appointment. The information provided to each individual submitting a completed application shall include the questions which will be asked of each applicant at the interview before the board in the form set forth in Exhibit 2 to this resolution. Each applicant will receive a 15-minute interview at which he or she will be asked to respond to the questions provided. This time we may be adjusted depending on the number of the candidates to be interviewed by the board for the provisional appointment. I would eliminate item number 3 and 4, modify item number 9 on the resolve clause as mentioned, and then modify item number 10 to read that upon closure of the application period, the superintendent president or designee shall forward to each board member the applications received and the interview materials, including the materials provided to the applicants in Exhibit 2. I would also recommend eliminating the 12th resolved clause, as if we're going through this process, if we're going to forego the process and just select someone who hasn't provided an application, I don't think that is fair to the remaining applicants. Further, I think Council Member Uranga submitted his resignation on 7/14, not 7/11, as stated in the resolution. Also in the 11th whereas clause, it's citing our own administrative regulation 2024, and I'm looking at that regulation, and I'd like to bring your attention to 2024.5. Each member will review all candidate information sheets with final selection made by a majority vote of the board members at a public meeting called for that purpose. And I believe the board had the packet from last session, so I requested the same packet since I wasn't sworn in. I had to ask for it, and I looked at all the districts. I believe we researched 4 districts, all of which did not go through this process, and I would like to entertain a motion, or I'm proposing a motion to eliminate a committee, especially a committee that is not subject to the Brown Act, and just go through the typical process just like all the other districts have done.
So you have, and I was trying to write the notes, and I apologize, your substitute motion is many items.
Just eliminating item 3 and 4 and amending 9.
So your motion is to eliminate, the substitute motion is to eliminate the committee, and
Yes.
that's all.
Yes. and
there-
receive input from all stakeholders, including the
No,
community.
let's just leave with that. Let's make it, so your motion is to eliminate the committee appointed. Is there a second to that item? None. The substitute motion fails for lack of a second. Other items that you'd like to bring up at this time?
Yeah, I'd like
I'm
to
sorry,
make it.
Trustee Zia?
Yeah.
Is there any-
I think it's unfortunate that I can't get a second on something that is typically done with other districts. But, you know, I would, if we're going through a committee that it seems that we are, I would recommend not ranking and having our, you know, with all due respect to our employees and members, I just don't understand how ranking would work. How is it based on? Is it like a scoring system? If we're ranking, if we're having our employees or our only employee rank our future trustee, who the community really elects, I don't know how that's gonna work, and I question that.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a good point. I'm sorry, and I was going to, I'll recognize Trustee Otto, because some of those questions about ranking, the role of this committee, by the way, the concern, not a concern, but everything these committees do, is our understanding, needs to follow the Brown Act. They will follow the Brown Act. So it is a public meeting, and that was a question that came up, but I apologize. Chair recognizes Trustee Otto.
Yeah, Trustee Z, I agree with some of the things you say, but not with others. What this process is driven by is an incredibly short time period. In essence, the application period is open through the 22nd of August. The board has to vote by the 9th of September, because we have 60 days from when the declaration of abandonment of the seat came in. And so that means 9 and 9 is 18 days. So all the work that you're talking about would have to happen during that period of time. And I'm uncomfortable that that could happen. I actually spent some time researching this today, and every opinion that I've gotten is that this is a Brown Act committee, and that what that means is that all the meetings will be in public, would be in public, or however many meetings there would be. I agree with you absolutely that this idea of ranking people is a really bad idea, that given the time frame that we're talking about, that all that a committee can be expected to do in these, it really isn't 18 days, because you've got to have a meeting to do something. And I'm comfortable with a process that ultimately allows the board to make the decision. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if there was some kind of committee, if they just didn't pass everything over to the board and say, let's do this. It's a way of kind of organizing the materials. And so what I would recommend is this, that we keep paragraph 3, but we modify it as follows.
Trustee Otto, let me catch up with you. Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
That at the time, and I'm quoting from the language now, at the time of the adoption of this resolution, the board president shall appoint an ad hoc advisory committee composed of the following individuals: the superintendent president. Incidentally, that's an administration appointment, so they have representation. The student trustee, therefore the students have representation. The academic senate president, therefore the faculty has representation. A governing board member, therefore the governing board has representation. A governing board member appointed by the board president. But then I would delete the language "and a LBCC foundation member" and substitute for that language "and a community member appointed by the board president," because I think that we need the opportunity to get additional input, whether it's it needs to be broad, but what I'm worried about is if you have a 7-member or a 9-member or a 12-member or a 15-member board, that given the timeframes that are involved here, it becomes too unwieldy. Then continuing on, the committee shall meet in public after the closing date in time for the submission. I think that helps address some of the concerns about a secret committee trying to make secret decisions. After the closing date in time for submission of applications for the purpose of reviewing all complete and timely submitted applications for the provisional appointment, the committee shall, and then I would delete the language, then rank the applications and substitute in its place, make recommendations, and just say, and recommend the number of candidates to be interviewed by the entire board at its meeting on August 26th. In fact, if we kept to that, that would mean that we would have 4 days to accomplish this, and that's an incredibly short period of time, but that's when we have a scheduled meeting. And why I feel comfortable with these time constraints and supporting the language that I've proposed is because in the end, the non-delegatable duty of the board is to make this decision completely. And I anticipate, given the timeframes that have happened, that we're now faced with, that depending on the number of applications we get, if we get 50 applications, we're in trouble. But I don't expect anything other than a recommendation, and I, sitting here as a member of the board, say that I fully expect to interview everybody that is a candidate, provided it's not overwhelming. There's got to be a way to do this. So that's my proposed changes and the reasons behind my proposed changes.
So the substitute motion I'm hearing is the motion, the original motion is intact with the exception of the item number 3 in the resolution, beginning with, at the time of the adoption of this resolution, the board president shall, and I'm paraphrasing, but it will not be asking the committee to rank, but rather make recommendations. And I believe that is the main purpose, which I think is a good point.
In addition, the board president will select a member from the community as opposed to a member of the board, a member of the foundation.
Okay, that then is the substitute motion. Is there a second to the substitute motion?
Can I just ask a question from Trustee Otto?
No, wait.
Okay.
It needs to be, is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
So there is now a substitute motion on the floor. Questions, comments, members of the board. Chair recognizes Trustee Zia.
Thank you, President Kellogg. Thanks for your patience with my beginning, my first meeting. I think it's even more important for us to be fully participating from the get-go, not have a committee do our work for us or filter some applications for us. I just don't see how that would save us time. In fact, I will make time. This is such an important process that we have to go through, and I just don't see what a committee. I don't want to rely on another board member to tell me who I should be voting for. I'm going to invest the time and review all applications, and I frankly don't think we're going to get a lot of applications, but even if we do, we should invest the time as trustees to select our colleague. And I think if we're going to make a committee, we have the academic president here, academic senate president here, but they don't vote with us, and I value their opinion as much as I value our superintendent's opinion, members of the community's opinion, and also our faculty and classified staff and their union, and they are a major stakeholder in this district, and I think for us to just not include them, I don't think it's appropriate. And especially since we're going to just receive input or recommendation. I strongly disagree with going with this two-step process of going through a committee that will do some work for us, and I've never heard of an ad hoc advisory committee. In fact, all the districts that I looked at, that we did our research, show no such committee. And I just don't see why we have to be different from other districts and not follow a typical process. And I can point to those specific clauses in the documents that were in the research that our staff did. So I just don't, I don't see a need for an ad hoc committee, and precisely for the reason that Vice President Otto brought up, that time is of the essence. We need to move swiftly, and we have to review them anyway. I recommend just having this publicly, reviewing and interviewing candidates publicly, all candidates if need be, just like other districts have done.
Other comments, members of the board? I will state that as I've also looked through many of these different recommendations we've had, there have been some examples, but when I hear that people want to have more involvement from the community, that was something that I was very concerned about. But yet, if we just have this board, 4 members, dictate that, it eliminates that argument of having all these other aspects of our community involved. When I looked at this, I was looking at a much broader, even committee, but then it became, a lot of other issues came up in regard to the Brown Act, in regard to timeline, and then trying to do all the different areas to review. I think it will be beneficial to this board to have a committee at least go through the recommendations in a very short timeline, and then send it to us, because again, I just felt it was a positive way to have some community members involved in it and not just some elected board members. I'll be honest with you, as an elected individual, I have great respect for the electoral process. This is, and let's not kid ourselves, somebody only has to convince a majority of 4, which is 3 members, and they become an elected official of this community. For somebody that's gone through as many elections as I had, and the hard work that it takes, and the amount of time and energy you all put in to get to this point, I had some issues, but because the fact it costs so much money to the district, over $250,000 to do an election, I just felt this was the best process. This individual will have to stand for re-election, but I will tell you, the whole idea of having somebody have the opportunity to represent a community with 3 votes is, to me, I take it very seriously, because that individual is going to be sitting right here. And so yes, I think there's some questions, but I really believe that the changes in the substitute motion that's been properly seconded on the floor, I think it'll do some good, and it will help us, and we'll find out. But I think I'm supportive of the motion as a substitute motion has been stated and properly seconded, and I think this committee will add a value and will help us. But at the end of the day, it is our decision, and we're going to have to put the time and effort in. But I thought it was important to try and get some outreach by this board to the community, as minimal as it is. So that's my position on it. Other comments?